What if the thing you're hardest on yourself about is actually something that once saved you or was helpful? What are you over in this season of your life? Have you ever noticed how some of your most admired traits are also the ones that deplete your energy? What if nothing is wrong with you? You're just overdoing what once worked. Thanks for joining us today at the Healing Medicine Podcast. Who are you listening to? I am Dr. Jessie Mahoney, and my co-host is Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang. We are two board-certified physicians who bring decades of experience to the conversation about wellness. If you crave more ease and aspire to rediscover your love for medicine and life, one mindful step at a time, you are in the right place. We hope you'll love today's episode, and if so, please share it. A reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice. Welcome to today's episode. You are not broken. You're just overdoing what once worked. The overs, the toxics, and why awareness alone is not the same as change. Today is going to be a solo cast with yours truly, Jessie Mahoney. Nice to see you all again. And this is going to be the first of some episodes smattered in between of teaching and things that I teach in coaching and in my coaching groups that I feel called to share more broadly. I usually keep much of this stuff in my paid small groups and at my retreats. And I have decided to share this all at this moment because it is so important for so many of you that I don't want you to miss out. And because I am confident and clear enough to know that listening is not the same as engaging. Listening and consuming is powerful, but engaging is what is transformative. And so while part of me says I should create a private client-only podcast, that's not so much my style. And I am so convinced by the huge numbers of you that continue to work with me and to continue to come back for more, that I want to throw this out to all of you as listeners so that those of you who have worked with me can have a refresher. Those of you who haven't worked with me will hopefully be inspired to jump in and actually do this work. It's life-changing is all I have to say. So even if you hear this today and you think, yes, that's me, and if you feel relief, remember that awareness alone rarely changes the patterns that live in your nervous system, in your body, and in your habits. That's why coaching exists. Otherwise, there wouldn't be coaching. Everyone would just listen to podcasts. And I myself actually spent several years thinking I could figure it out. I understood it. I felt seen. I had the awareness, but I couldn't make the changes. And it isn't because you don't understand. It's because this work is just not unwound alone. It's not a matter of trying hard. It's not a matter of journaling regularly. It's a matter of showing up and working in the muck, digging in and having fun, because it is fun, but really diving into your trained relational habits. So I'm going to release a couple of upcoming episodes sharing some really, really good stuff with the hope that you will invest in yourself beyond consuming. And even if you don't, hopefully things will get a little bit better and you'll get a little bit closer to recognizing that you want to invest in yourself. I have people signing up for things all the time who say, I've been listening to podcasts for years and now I'm ready. And so hopefully these few episodes will nudge you to jump in a little bit faster. So today's topic, the overs and the toxics. Number one, I just love that title, and the language itself creates relief. And I encourage you, if you haven't listened to the episode on over responsibility and toxic independence, that's the root of this episode. And there are many things that we have been doing in our lives that were helpful at one point. They once worked, but now we are overdoing them. So we're not broken, we're simply overdoing what once worked. And I use these words overs and toxics very intentionally. They're not a diagnosis, they're not a judgment. They are ways to sort of name what's happening, the tone, the energy, and the quality. And when you think about over and toxic, we are organizing what's happening. We're understanding what's happening. It's not that something is wrong with you. It's that you are over functioning or that you've slipped into toxic productivity. And so while productivity is great and functioning is great, when you over them or you toxic them, you are recognizing where something that was helpful may or may not be, is not helpful anymore when you put the over and the toxic. So I want to talk a little bit about the overs. And many of you have heard me share a number of these ways of moving through the world in my School of Unlearning keynote talk. And I have a framework there that I like to share, which I am not going to change because it is so powerful. But as I started explaining things there, I really started to think about this idea of overs and all the things that we overdo. And so I'm going to just list some overs slowly, and we'll talk about some. And if you have any more overs that you would like to share with me after listening to this podcast, please send me an email so I can add them to my list. So number one, overachieving. This could also be called toxic achievement. Over striving, overdoing, overthinking, over functioning, over managing, over organizing, over optimizing, over responsible, over explaining, over compensating, over cautious. So achieving, striving, doing, thinking, functioning, managing, organizing, being responsible, explaining, compensating, being cautious are not flaws. Those are actually helpful strategies that got us to where we are. These days, however, many of us are doing the over version of them. They were learned early, they were rewarded, they were praised. And so we've put them on steroids and are doing more of them than serves us well or is healthy for us. And so the idea is not to stop them or just describe them all as bad, because it is, again, a spectrum. And so the idea is to ask yourself helpful questions about these. When did these start helping you? How do they protect you? And what are they costing you? And where are they helpful? And where is it about the over? So noticing with all of those where the challenge is: overachieving, over striving, overdoing, overthinking, overfunctioning, overmanaging, overorganizing, over optimizing, over responsible, over explaining, overcompensating, over cautious. Which of those describe you? Where are they helpful? The root of the word, and where is it over? The second category is the toxics. My list is shorter here, though I know that there are more. Toxic achievement, toxic endurance, toxic independence, toxic productivity, toxic efficiency. I like to define toxic as you feel bitter, resentful, or disconnected when you do it. So again, achievement, endurance, independence, productivity, efficiency are all amazing, but they can become toxic when they leave you feeling bitter, resentful, or disconnected from yourself. And so the work here is to know when they're helpful and when it's toxic and when it's over. And then it's to figure out how to change. So how do you know when something is a toxic or an over? Sometimes it's obvious because you're exhausted. Sometimes it presents as irritability. Sometimes it presents as chronic pain. Sometimes it presents as reactivity. And sometimes it's more subtle. So in your body, it might be chronic tension. It might be achy joints. It might be tightness in the chest. It might be just a general level of dis-ease, discomfort. It might show up as grief, sadness, anxiety, depression, sleep problems. In your mind, it often shows up as those subtle, unhelpful questions. I should be able to handle this. What will happen? Everything feels like it's going to fall apart. Sometimes it's the constant mental looping, literally the overthinking itself. Sometimes you have this loss of joy. You can't feel content. It's hard to be present. You feel numb or resentful. You may not even notice these things anymore because this has become your normal state. It just feels normal. And so the work of mindfulness is the work of noticing, where these things are over and toxic. And I think that working with another human to help you see what is over and what is toxic, and to help you figure out subtle shifts that feel safe. You are not going to go from being someone who's over responsible to being someone who's irresponsible. Where is the 1%? 2% shift that you're comfortable with. We always talk in coaching about pushing yourself too far. And if you push yourself too far, too fast, you're unwilling to make a change. And so, how can you begin to step 1%, 2%, 3% towards something that's less over and less toxic? How can you know when it's necessary or essential and when it's over or toxic? So, as I loop towards the end of this short teaching podcast, I want to just talk a little bit more about what you might be missing by simply listening and using the overs and the toxics as an example. So, when you listen, you might reflect, but you're reflecting while listening. You're reflecting while walking. You're reflecting while driving. Are you taking notes? Are you allotting separate time to dig into it? Are you getting feedback from another human about what that might look like? Is someone asking you helpful questions? Is someone watching to notice how your nervous system responds when you respond to a question or when you hear a question? Are you practicing discernment? Are you noticing the subtleties? And are you actually making the shifts that you want to make? Making the shifts that you want to make come from being in a relationship with this work. And this idea of a relationship, I love, because remember, relationships are a back and forth, they're an interaction, and they're not easy. They actually also take work. And so, if you were to think about being in a relationship with these overs, could you know what part is over? Could you know what part is helpful? Could you know what part feels good? So, as I begin to delve into this series of teaching, I just want to share with all of you that I just absolutely love this work, and that's why I'm sharing it. I want you all to know what's possible and move a little bit farther than just simply conversations. So if you want to move further, I really encourage you to think about what would it take for you to move further? What is your next step? How can you make some of the things that you learn about in this podcast into a lived experience where you're not just labeling the pattern, where you're actually changing your relationship with it? Some reflection questions for today. What are you over right now? Which of your strengths has become expensive emotionally or energetically? What might be possible if you delve in further? A reminder, as always, that nothing shared on the Healing Medicine podcast is medical advice. And a nudge to please share this episode with others who might benefit. This episode names a universal experience. It hopes to remove shame. It offers up relief and next steps. And it's designed to share. So please, if you could, share it with someone who would benefit. And if you're inspired to join me for coaching or retreat, go to my website, www.jessiemahoney.com, and check out the small group coaching offerings for the spring and retreats. Both of those options are filling up at a somewhat brisk pace as we near the end of the year. But I would love to have you join and just consider what could happen for you, what could be different in the next 6 months if you moved beyond just listening and changed your relationship with the material. What if you noticed the overs and the toxic and decided to make a change? Have an amazing week.
Thanks for listening. If our message resonates, we'd love to connect further. Join us for coaching, mindfulness experiences, workshops, and retreats. Invite us to speak at your institution or conference. When you work with us, you don't just consume information, you create real change. Find me Chang Liang at Awakened Breath and Jessie Mahoney at Pause and Presence. Welcome to this mindful moment offering. An invitation for you to close your eyes or lower your gaze a few inches in front of you, whatever is most comfortable. And bringing up something in your mind's eye or recounting something fairly recently that you're proud of. Anything at all, doesn't have to be something super big, can be as seemingly simple as remembering to engage in some purposeful physical activity for the day or another health habit. And holding on to that pride of having done that for yourself, simply because it's good for you and hopefully because it feels good. Now, noticing the sensation of pride, and if this sensation is a bit uncomfortable, noticing that as well. Getting curious about sitting in whatever is here for you now as you hold on to this experience of pride, even if it's a bit uncomfortable. What body sensations are you noticing? Any other emotions that are associated? And what thoughts are arising for you as I invite you to recount an experience recently that you're proud of? Not judging the thoughts, not judging other emotions, and not judging your body sensations, but simply allowing this present moment experience to be just as it is. And if there's some discomfort, noticing that and allowing and accepting whatever is there for you, just as it is, being held in some self compassion and some kindness, and perhaps some curiosity about why there is discomfort, not trying to resist it or judge it, simply allowing it and sending the discomfort some compassion and warmth and kindness. And as you're ready, blinking open eyes, letting the light back in, taking a moment now to notice how you feel compared to just a few minutes ago. Thanks so much for practicing with me today.